Every single time my driver picked me up to take me to the corporate headquarters on the Las Vegas Strip, his girlfriend was riding shotgun. Because her workplace was technically on the way and I preferred a quiet commute, I never made a scene about it. I chose peace over petty arguments. Until the Monday morning everything shattered. I opened the heavy door of my custom matte black Rolls-Royce Phantom, only to find a neon pink sticky note slapped right onto my leather seat in the back. Written in aggressive, looping cursive were the words, "Comped rides are for high rollers only. Freelance leeches aren't welcome in this luxury." I peeled the note off, my fingers tightening around the paper, and looked directly at the driver. "Jackson, what exactly is the meaning of this?" His girlfriend, a woman wearing heavy Instagram-ready makeup and oversized designer sunglasses, turned around from the passenger seat. She glared at me with pure, unadulterated contempt. "Can't you read, honey?" she sneered, snapping her chewing gum. "Every single day you mooch a free ride off my boyfriend. Have you no shame? If you can't afford a luxury rideshare in Vegas, stay home or take the bus." God, I absolutely loathe parasites who try to look rich on someone else's dime. I stared at her, completely flabbergasted. Before I could utter a single word, Jackson scrambled out of the driver's seat, rushed to my side of the car, and frantically signaled for me to step back. He lowered his voice to a desperate, trembling whisper. "Miss Vance, please, I beg you. My girlfriend has absolutely no idea I'm just a chauffeur. She thinks I own this fleet." He swallowed hard, looking back nervously. "She's incredibly jealous and status-obsessed. That note. It's just her twisted way of showing she cares about my assets. Plus, she explicitly told me she's not comfortable sharing a vehicle with an underling like you. Please just let me drop her off at her venue first, and I swear on my life I'll come right back to pick you up." Before I could even process the sheer audacity of his request, Jackson jumped back behind the wheel, slammed the door, hit the accelerator, and tore down the driveway. I stood frozen on the pristine curb of my estate, watching the sleek taillights of my own vehicle disappear into the desert morning heat. I didn't yell. I didn't chase after them. I calmly pulled my iPhone from my pocket and dialed 911. "Hello, this is Vivian Vance. A man and a woman have just driven off with my registered Rolls-Royce Phantom without my authorization. I would like to report a grand theft auto." Never in my life, as the CEO and majority shareholder of Vance International, a multi-billion-dollar hospitality and casino conglomerate, had I imagined someone would look me dead in the eye and call me a freeloader. And the irony? The luxury vehicle they used to flee the scene belonged entirely to me. Exactly 20 minutes later, a Las Vegas Metro squad car pulled up to the gates. The two officers had barely stepped out to take my statement when Jackson came tearing around the corner in my Phantom. He slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching to a halt just inches from the curb, and practically tumbled out of the driver's seat. His face was entirely devoid of color, pale as a ghost. "Miss Vance, what happened? Why are the police here?" he stammered, his voice cracking. I looked at him, completely silent, crossing my arms. One of the responding officers stepped forward, sizing Jackson up with a stern look. "Are you the individual Miss Vance claims took this luxury vehicle without her explicit authorization?" The remaining color drained from Jackson's face. No, officers. This is a massive misunderstanding." He threw his hands up in the air, palms out, sweating profusely under the Nevada sun. "I'm Miss Vance's personal driver. I drive her every single day. I just had to drop someone off on a quick detour. Took a few extra minutes due to strip traffic, that's all. Nobody stole anything, I swear." He gestured frantically at the Rolls-Royce behind him, forcing a sickening, trembling grin. "See? I brought the car right back. First priority." The officers turned their gaze to me, waiting. "Miss Vance, do you want to press charges for grand theft auto?" I opened my mouth to say yes, but Jackson stepped closer, dropping his voice to a desperate, ragged whisper that only I could hear. "Miss Vance, please. Do it for my father's sake. Thomas drove for your family for 30 years. Just let this one go. You know his heart condition is failing. I finally found a girlfriend, and making something of myself was the one thing he wanted to see before he passed. What I did back there. I just had to keep things stable between her and me. I had no choice." The mention of his father struck a deep chord, softening the cold anger in my chest. Thomas Miller had been my family's most trusted driver for 3 decades. He was honest, intensely dependable, and a man of absolute integrity. For 30 years, he was never late, never complained, and treated our family with the utmost respect. 3 months ago, his deteriorating health forced him to resign. On his final day, tears in his eyes, he asked me if I could give his son, Jackson, a chance at the company because the boy had just lost his previous job. Out of profound respect for Thomas, I hired Jackson on the spot. But starting last month, everything changed. The day the routine began, Jackson arrived to pick me up, and there was suddenly a woman caked in heavy makeup sitting in the passenger seat. Jackson had hurried to open my door, whispering, "Miss Vance, this is my girlfriend, Tiffany Wilde. Her marketing gig is right on the way to the office, so I figured I'd save her a cab ride." I simply nodded. Giving someone a lift wasn't a big deal to me. But gradually it became an unbearable daily nightmare. What was supposed to be a casual favor turned into a rigid routine. Tiffany loved taking selfies in the plush leather interior, filming videos for her social media to boast about, riding in her man's Phantom. I understood vanity. Vegas is built on it. What I couldn't tolerate was the sheer disgust she directed at me in the rearview mirror. She would loudly spray expensive perfume toward the back seat, complaining, "Ugh, babe. Why does this luxury car always smell like cheap, office worker sweat?" I had even sent the car for a full detailing, thinking there was a genuine odor, but her behavior only escalated. She started laying down plastic sheets before I got in, claiming she didn't want the premium leather contaminated. When I confronted Jackson, he always offered the same sheepish excuse. "Tiffany is just a germaphobe, Miss Vance. She's looking out for your clothes." I had let it slide because my mind was occupied with multi-million-dollar casino acquisitions. I didn't have the energy for a petty dramatic dispute with an influencer. Until that morning when the sticky note made everything click. Tiffany honestly believed Jackson owned the car, and that I was the corporate freeloader mooching rides. Now, Jackson was practically on his knees on the pavement, begging for mercy. "Miss Vance, I swear it will never happen again. I'll set Tiffany straight today. No more rides. Please, for my father's sake, forgive me this once." Thinking of Thomas, I let out a long, heavy sigh. I looked at the officers. "Forget it. I'm dropping the charges. It's an internal corporate misunderstanding." After the police car drove away, Jackson let out a long, shuddering breath of relief. He thanked me profusely, bowing his head over and over, his attitude suddenly immaculate. I said nothing more. I got into the back seat and coldly ordered him to take me to the Vance International headquarters. For a couple of weeks after that, Jackson actually behaved. Every morning he arrived to pick me up. The passenger seat was blissfully empty. No sign of Tiffany Wilde. The interior of the Rolls-Royce had been pristine. Every chemical trace of her cheap perfume and aggressive disinfectant thoroughly scrubbed away. His driving was smooth, and his demeanor was perfectly disciplined. The only growing issue was that he started showing up late. At first it was 10 minutes, then 20, then half an hour. And every single time he had a perfectly tailored excuse ready. "I am so sorry, Miss Vance, there was a major pileup on I-15. Traffic was backed up all the way to the Henderson exit. My apologies, Miss Vance, my phone glitched and my alarm didn't go off. It won't happen again. I'm terribly sorry, Miss Vance. A water main burst in my apartment complex and I was dealing with emergency maintenance so the floor below wouldn't flood." The excuses began to sound incredibly flimsy, but because I was buried under paperwork for the upcoming high-stakes expansion of our flagship resort, I chose to overlook it. I truly believed the lesson had been learned. Then came the weekend. On a whim, I decided to escape the frantic energy of the Strip and spend a couple of days recharging at my private luxury villa, hidden away in the exclusive, gated community of Summerlin. I rarely used this property, preferring my penthouse, so it remained a quiet, secluded sanctuary. I pulled out my phone and called Jackson. "Where are you right now? I need to head out to the Summerlin estate. Come pick me up immediately." There was a long, heavy silence on the other end of the line. Jackson hemmed and hawed, his breath hitching before he finally answered in a highly calculated, careful tone. "Miss Vance, I am so incredibly sorry. I woke up this morning and found a massive nail in the front tire of the Phantom. I'm actually at an authorized auto shop right now getting it replaced. The mechanic says the specialized tire won't arrive until tomorrow morning. Where exactly are you headed? I can call a premium Uber Black for you on the company account if you'd like." I frowned, deeply annoyed by the hassle but not wanting to argue. "Forget it, Jackson. Enjoy your weekend. I'll just hail a ride myself." After hanging up, I booked a private car and made the drive out to the desert foothills of Summerlin. But the moment the car pulled up to the grand wrought iron gates of my villa, My breath caught in my throat. My matte black Rolls-Royce Phantom was parked right in the circular driveway, completely intact, gleaming under the bright Nevada sun. I stared at it for several seconds, my heart beginning to hammer against my ribs. Once I confirmed the license plate was indeed my private registration, I paid the driver, stepped out, and quickened my pace toward the massive double front doors of the villa. To my absolute shock, the front door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open quietly, and the sight that met my eyes inside completely knocked the wind out of my lungs. My pristine, architecturally designed living room had been utterly desecrated. The custom marble coffee table and hardwood floors were littered with empty tequila bottles, half-eaten catering platters, spilled vape juices, and sticky red plastic cups. The imported Italian velvet sofa and silk rugs, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, were covered in dirty, muddy sneaker footprints. In several devastating spots, glowing hookah coals and cigarette butts had been carelessly dropped, eating black, charred holes straight through the delicate fabric. My furious gaze swept the disaster zone and landed squarely on the main couch facing the entrance. Tiffany Wilde was lounging right in the center of it, surrounded by a court of laughing, trendy friends holding their phones up. "Tiffany, seriously, you hit the literal jackpot with Jackson," one girl gushed, recording a video. "Not only is he filthy rich, but he's wrapped around your finger. You mentioned wanting those exclusive pastries from the Wynn at 2 a.m., and he literally ran out like a trained puppy to fetch them. When you officially become the queen of the Vance Casino empire, you better not forget about us." Tiffany's lips curled into a smug, insufferable grin. She was just about to deliver a rehearsed, arrogant reply when she casually glanced up and spotted me standing frozen in the grand doorway. Her smile vanished instantly. She stood up, her designer stiletto heels clicking sharply against the ruined hardwood floor as she strode directly toward me, her chin raised in absolute arrogance. Crack. Without warning, her hand flew out and she slapped me hard across the face. "You psycho, shameless tramp!" Tiffany shrieked, her voice echoing in the vaulted ceiling. "You actually followed my boyfriend all the way to his private estate?" The violent blow came completely out of nowhere. I stood rooted to the spot, my left cheek burning with a searing, fiery heat, my vision blurring for a fraction of a second. Everyone in the crowded room gasped, their eyes going wide as they watched the drama unfold. "Tiffany, what's going on? Who is this?" one of her friends shouted, holding up a phone to record. Tiffany jabbed a sharp, manicured finger directly into my face, her features twisted with venomous disgust. "This is that pathetic corporate freeloader I was telling you guys about. Mooching free luxury rides off my boyfriend to go to her basic shift wasn't enough for her. Now she's explicitly tracking his GPS to mooch off his private mansion." I stared at her in utter, absolute disbelief, a cold, dangerous calm starting to settle over my anger. "Who exactly told you that this villa belongs to Jackson?" Tiffany let out a sharp, mocking, incredibly condescending laugh. "He did, you absolute clown. Told me himself. You pathetic, desperate little gold digger. You found out my boyfriend is the billionaire CEO of Vance International. So now you're pulling every disgusting trick in the book to manipulate your way into his bed. Bumming rides every single morning, manufacturing fake work emergencies just to be alone with him in his car. And that wasn't enough? Now you've crawled past the security gate to throw yourself at him in his own home." She turned to her friends, projecting her voice to the entire room like a twisted ringmaster. "You want to know how truly shameless this trash is? She forces herself into my boyfriend's car every single day. You literally cannot get rid of her. I even left a polite note telling her to know her place, and she threw a massive psychotic tantrum and called the cops on him, claiming he was harassing a corporate underling. So my poor boyfriend had to start driving me to my venue an hour early, then double back across the city just to chauffeur this leech around, all to protect his company's public reputation." My eyes went wide as the final pieces of the puzzle slammed into place. That was why Jackson had been consistently late picking me up for the past 2 weeks. He hadn't been trapped in traffic or dealing with burst pipes. He had been sneaking around, driving Tiffany across Las Vegas first, using my luxury vehicle, and then speeding back to pick me up, desperately trying to keep his massive web of lies from collapsing. Well played, Jackson. Well played. You wanted to treat the woman who signs your paychecks like a complete fool? Then you are about to find out exactly what happens when the illusion breaks. I pulled my phone out right there on the spot, my fingers steady as I pulled up my contacts. I dialed the head of the corporate legal team. "Get a security detail and our primary counsel to the Summerlin Villa immediately. We have a massive corporate breach and..." Before I could even finish the sentence, Tiffany lunged forward with a snarl. She snatched the phone right out of my hand and hurled it violently against the marble floor. The screen shattered, the display bleeding into blackness. Then her malicious gaze dropped to my neck, and her eyes lit up with sudden dangerous greed. Well, look at this. That diamond-encrusted horseshoe pendant definitely doesn't look cheap. Let me guess, you spread your legs for some high roller on the strip to get this. She reached out, grabbed the platinum chain, and ripped it off my neck with a violent, snapping motion. The edges of the metal dug deep into my skin, leaving a stinging red welt. The necklace was in her hand before I could even register the physical shock. The blood completely drained from my face. "Give that back to me right now," I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous, icy whisper. My sudden panic only caused her cruel smile to sharpen. She dangled the glittering pendant just out of my reach, mocking me. "Oh, did I hit a nerve? This little trinket must be worth a fortune on the black market." "It's priceless," I blurted out, abandoning my composure as I lunged forward to grab it. "It means everything to me. Give it back." I reached for it, desperate, a sickening wave of dread washing over me. That custom diamond horseshoe wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a legacy piece, the very first token of good fortune my mother had won when she arrived in Las Vegas decades ago with nothing but a dream. She had built our family's foundation on that luck, surviving the brutal corporate wars of old Vegas, and she had passed it down to me on her deathbed, demanding I wear it as a reminder of where we came from and the strength it took to survive. It was the only tangible piece of her I had left in this world. Before my fingers could brush her hand, Tiffany looked me dead in the eye, sneered, and threw the necklace down onto the hard marble floor with all her might. Snap. Crack. The platinum frame bent, and the rare, flawlessly cut diamonds shattered out of their settings, scattering across the ruined hardwood and tile like worthless shards of glass. "No!" A raw gasp tore from my throat. My mother's legacy, destroyed in an instant by a petulant child throwing a tantrum. Something deep inside my soul snapped. Years of corporate restraint, calculated public relations, and high society etiquette evaporated. I swung my right hand and slapped Tiffany across the face with every ounce of strength in my body. Smack! Tiffany shrieked, stumbling backward into the coffee table, clutching her reddening cheek. Her eyes dilated with wild, psychotic fury. "Beat the absolute living hell out of this psycho bitch!" she screamed at the top of her lungs, her voice cracking. "Whoever does the best job gets a $10,000 credit line at my boutique. Do it now." The words acted like a starting pistol for her entourage. Eager to please their wealthy influencer benefactor, 3 of her friends descended on me in a chaotic frenzy of flying fists and kicking heels. "You actually dared to lay a hand on Tiffany?" one guy shouted, shoving me hard against the wall. "She's about to marry the CEO of Vance International. Who the hell do you think you are, you corporate trash?" They dragged me to the ground. I curled into a ball, protecting my head as kicks rained down on my ribs and back. The physical pain was nothing compared to the absolute burning rage radiating through my veins. I gritted my teeth, spitting blood onto the floor, and forced out a ragged promise. "Every single one of you is going to deeply regret this." The entire living room erupted into mocking laughter. They threw their heads back like I had just delivered the funniest joke in Las Vegas history. They pinned me down, hurling insults and humiliating slurs without a shred of human restraint. Surrounded by her cheering, filming entourage, Tiffany walked over, grabbed a fistful of my hair, and violently yanked my head back so I was forced to look up at her. Her face was a mask of vicious, unchecked triumph. "Regret," she whispered, her hot breath hitting my face. "Honey, I'm a Vegas elite now. I have never regretted a single thing in my entire life. Go ahead. Show me what a worthless, low-wage piece of trash like you can possibly do to make me regret." The final word had barely left her mouth when a sudden thunderous roar shattered the quiet suburban air outside. It wasn't one engine. It was a massive synchronized convoy. The heavy, low-frequency growl of multiple high-end security SUVs and luxury sedans filled the driveway, tires tearing across the gravel. The sound built in overwhelming layers, cutting through the music and laughter inside the villa. Through the massive floor-to-ceiling glass windows of the living room, a fleet of blacked-out Cadillac Escalades and Mercedes-Benz executive vans swept their high beams across the destroyed house. Tiffany still had her fist twisted in my hair. But suddenly her grip loosened. The entire room went dead silent. The music was abruptly shut off. And in that terrifying quiet, I watched the arrogant confidence drain out of Tiffany's face, one excruciating degree at a time, as the sheer weight of what was happening outside began to sink in. I didn't move an inch. I didn't need to. The predator had just realized it was trapped in a cage. The massive double front doors of the villa were thrown open. Donovan, my chief of corporate security, entered first. He stood at 6'3", a former federal agent with the absolute, unnerving stillness of a man who spent decades controlling high-stakes rooms without ever having to raise his voice. Behind him marched 3 senior members of Vance International's executive legal team, 2 vice presidents from our flagship resort, and 6 uniformed security personnel who immediately fanned out across the room with the quiet, chilling efficiency of an extraction team. Donovan's eyes swept the room. He looked at me on the floor. He looked at Tiffany's fist still loosely tangled in my hair. He noted the shattered diamond fragments near my hand, the cigarette burns on the custom velvet, and the empty tequila bottles. His expression didn't change at all, remaining completely unreadable. It was the face of a man who was about to be exceptionally thorough. "Madam CEO," Donovan said, crossing the ruined living room in 4 measured strides. He crouched beside me, extending a gloved hand. "Are you able to stand?" The entire room shattered. Not literally, but you could feel the exact second Tiffany's world cracked along every single seam. She dropped her hand, completely releasing my hair, and stumbled backward. I took Donovan's hand and stood up, bracing against the sharp ache in my ribs. My left wrist was throbbing from where I had blocked a kick, and my jaw burned from the slap, but I pulled my shoulders back. Straight spine. Even breath. I wiped a stray drop of blood from my lip and looked around the room. Tiffany and her friends were frozen in various postures of unfinished violence, phones still clutched in their hands, the wreckage of my property framing them. "Document everything," I ordered the legal team, my voice echoing coldly in the vaulted space. "Every room. Every surface. I want high-resolution photographs of every single point of damage before anyone handles a single item." The legal team moved instantly, pulling out cameras and evidence markers. One of Tiffany's friends made a small, involuntary choking noise, the sound of someone stepping off a ledge in the dark and realizing there is no ground beneath them. Who is she?" Tiffany stammered, her voice completely transformed. The sharp, toxic confidence was entirely gone, replaced by a thin, trembling panic. Nobody answered her. Nobody needed to. Exactly 4 minutes later, Jackson pushed through the front door. He was carrying a sleek pastry bag from the Wynn, the exact midnight request his friends had been mocking earlier. He was still wearing the posture of a man performing a grand romantic gesture, his face composed into the smug expression he used when playing the billionaire. He walked into the living room, and he stopped dead in his tracks. He saw Donovan. He saw the corporate lawyers photographing the charred holes in the carpet. He saw his girlfriend standing entirely rigid in the center of the room. He saw me. The expensive pastry bag slipped from his fingers. It hit the floor, the delicate pastries rolling out through cigarette ash and shattered glass. "Miss Vance." His voice lacked any volume. The air had been completely sucked out of his lungs. "Jackson," I said, my voice very quiet, very steady. "Tell everyone in this room exactly who owns this villa." He stood there, paralyzed, his lips trembling. Tiffany turned to him, her eyes wide with a desperate, manic urgency. "Tell them, Jax. Tell them this is your estate. Tell them you're the CEO of Vance International." Jackson looked at Tiffany. Then he looked at me. Then he looked at Donovan's face. "Jackson," I repeated, the tone final. The silence stretched so long that the girl who had been filming the entire ordeal slowly, quietly lowered her phone. Jackson closed his eyes, swallowed hard, and opened them. "It's her house," he whispered to the floor. The last shred of certainty collapsed from Tiffany's face. The raw reality hit her like a physical blow. "What?" "The villa is hers, Tiffany." Jackson's voice went completely flat, past the point of fear. "The Rolls-Royce is hers. Vance International. Everything. I'm her personal driver. That's all I am. I'm just her driver." Tiffany slowly turned her head back to look at me. I watched her process the sheer scale of the illusion she had been living in. The woman she had called a parasite. The woman she had sprayed with perfume. The woman she had ordered her friends to beat. "You're..." Tiffany started. "I am Vivian Vance," I said. "The car Jackson used to chauffeur you around is registered to my corporation. This villa is my private property. The multi-billion-dollar empire Jackson claimed to run belongs to me. You have been an uninvited trespasser in my home for how long, Jackson?" He wouldn't look up. 6 weeks, he muttered to the floorboards. 6 weeks, I echoed, looking around at the ruined velvet and marble. 6 weeks of exploiting my property, lying about your identity, and allowing your associates to treat me with utter contempt in my own vehicle and my own home. Tiffany's entourage began doing what people always do when they realize they have committed a catastrophic, life-altering error. They began to subtly, silently retreat. One girl took 3 quiet steps toward the side exit. Another tucked her phone deeply into her pocket. A third sat down on a stool, staring at her shoes, hoping to become invisible. Tiffany noticed. "You guys didn't know either," she shrieked, her voice going violently shrill. "We all thought he was the billionaire. You all believed it too. We were just hanging out, Tiffany," the nearest girl barked back, a cold calculation instantly taking over. "You're the one who said it was his estate." "I didn't break anything. I didn't touch her," another friend added, looking terrified as he raised his hands toward Donovan. "I was just standing here." "You explicitly told them to beat me within an inch of my life," I said, my voice entirely factual, "while I was pinned to the floor. And you all participated." Silence fell over the room. "Our team has been recording audio and video from the moment we breached the perimeter," Donovan announced to the room. I looked at the girl who had been filming the assault. "Whatever you uploaded to your social accounts today will be subpoenaed by our legal department. Thank you for preserving the evidence." The Las Vegas Metro Police arrived 20 minutes later. By then, my legal counsel had documented every inch of the property damage, bagged the shattered diamonds from my mother's heirloom, retrieved the dashcam footage from the Rolls-Royce, and downloaded the villa's cloud-based security archive, which captured the entire assault from 2 different angles. Tiffany tried to control the narrative the moment the officers walked in, putting on the performance of a victim. "Officer, please, this is a massive misunderstanding. I was invited to this estate by..." The lead officer held up a firm hand. "Ma'am, please step back. We will take statements from everyone individually." "She attacked me first," Tiffany yelled, pointing a manicured finger at me. "She trespassed and assaulted me." I said absolutely nothing, letting my actions speak through my representation. My primary corporate attorney, Christine, stepped forward, handing the officers a neatly organized, comprehensive binder. "This is Miss Vivian Vance," Christine said, her voice entirely polite and utterly devastating. "She is the principal owner of this estate and the CEO of Vance International. She arrived at her private residence today to find it occupied without authorization, her high-value assets destroyed, and herself physically assaulted by the party present. We are providing the officers with immediate access to the internal security footage, vehicle logs, and the public social media broadcasts uploaded by the suspects themselves over the last 6 weeks." The officer looked at the smashed table, the burns on the carpet, the evidence bags, and then at Tiffany. "We're going to need everyone's identification," the officer stated firmly. Jackson caught up with me outside near the security SUV, where I was drawing in the clean desert air, away from the smell of smoke and stale tequila. "Miss Vance," he whispered, his voice adopting that exact same desperate, pleading frequency from the parking lot weeks ago. I looked at him completely expressionless. "My father," he started. "No, Jackson," I cut him off. "Your father spent 30 years earning a reputation of flawless integrity. He used that reputation to protect you when you made your first mistake, and I honored his legacy by giving you a second chance. I did that for Thomas, not for you. Miss Vance, please, if you press charges, if this hits the Vegas press, my dad's heart can't take it. If he finds out what I did." "Jackson, you used your dying father's name as a shield to escape Grand Theft Auto," I said, my voice dropping. "You stood in that parking lot telling me you were sorry, and the moment I let you go, you went right back to spinning your web of lies. You kept taking my car. You brought these people into my home for 6 more weeks. You let them destroy my property. And you let her destroy." I paused, looking down at the clear plastic evidence bag containing the ruined pieces of my mother's diamond horseshoe. The sharp, hollow ache in my chest was heavy. "You let her destroy the one irreplaceable piece of my family history," I said softly. "And you walked in here carrying pastries. The consequences are entirely yours to carry now, Jackson, not your father's." I turned my back on him and got into the SUV. I spent that evening at a private clinic. My left wrist was severely sprained and placed in a splint. 2 of my ribs were heavily bruised from the kicks, and my jaw was swollen. The physician documented every single injury, transferring the files directly to Christine's legal archive. I sat in the quiet room, holding the plastic bag of shattered diamonds. For decades, that token had represented my mother's survival in a brutal city. 3 minutes with an insecure influencer had reduced it to dust. The grief was heavy, but as a CEO, I knew how to convert pain into a structural plan. I called my master jeweler on the strip. I have the shattered fragments of my mother's legacy piece, I told him. They cannot be reset into the original horseshoe. What can we do? We spoke for 20 minutes. The fragments would be permanently sealed inside a heavy, custom-molded platinum and sapphire casing. A transparent medallion. The diamonds would remain exactly as they were shattered, suspended in perfect clarity. A different shape but the exact same weight. She would still be with me. Vance International's public relations division issued an official press release 48 hours later. It was factual, clinical, and completely devastating. On the morning of June 27, Ms. Vivian Vance, CEO of Vance International, arrived at her private Summerlin residence to find it occupied without authorization. The trespassers caused substantial property damage, including the malicious destruction of an irreplaceable family heirloom. Upon discovery, Ms. Vance was violently assaulted by multiple individuals, sustaining documented injuries. The individual who facilitated unauthorized entry is Jackson Miller, a corporate driver who misrepresented himself to the occupants as the company's chief executive. The corporate vehicle was also utilized without authorization. Vance International confirms Jackson Miller has been terminated immediately. The corporation is aggressively pursuing criminal and civil actions for grand theft, criminal trespass, property damage, and felony assault. The release included 3 high-definition attachments: the ruined living room, the charred velvet carpet, and the official evidence photograph of the shattered diamond fragments. By Tuesday afternoon, the story was trending globally. The Las Vegas internet community went into a frenzy, digging up Tiffany Wilde's older posts and contrasting them against the corporate reality. She literally posted "chilling at our private estate" from the CEO's house while holding her down by the hair. The delusion is terrifying. Look at the necklace photo. Her mother won that to start their company. I am sick to my stomach. The viral headlines across news outlets read: driver poses as Vegas casino billionaire. Influencer girlfriend assaults the real C. By Tuesday evening, the mid-level fashion brand that sponsored Tiffany's marketing boutique released a single-sentence statement announcing they had severed all ties with her effective immediately. Her friends began releasing frantic, uncoordinated video statements online, all sharing the same general theme. We didn't know, we were lied to. We didn't participate in the physical assault. None of it mattered. The villa's security footage clearly delineated who had stood by, who had filmed, and who had actively kicked me. On Wednesday, Tiffany uploaded a 7-minute video from her apartment. She was crying heavily, hitting every single trope of a standard internet apology video, without offering an ounce of genuine accountability. She claimed she was a victim of Jackson's elaborate deception, that she had been entirely misled, and that the press was misrepresenting the timeline. She didn't mention the shattered diamonds. She didn't mention pulling my hair. And she certainly didn't mention that the entire illusion was entirely of her own greedy design. But the courts, the cameras, and the city of Las Vegas already knew the absolute truth.